Today I'm seated here with Paul Black, who's been leading our Celebrate Recovery ministry. I was just wondering about, I was thinking about, how long have you been doing this, Paul?
I first started coming to Celebrate Recovery probably about 2006 or 7, but I've been actively involved in leading for about 6 years.
Okay. We'd like to kind of explore today a little bit about what is Celebrate Recovery. Why is it a program that you would consider or tell somebody they ought to get involved in? So let's kind of begin with the big picture. What is it? Because often when I hear the word recovery, I think of strictly addictions. Is that what Celebrate Recovery is about? Or could you give us a big picture overview of what it is in your mind?
I think the first thing is realizing that we are all broken. We are broken differently. Some people are broken with drugs and alcohol, but there's so many other things we can be broken with anger and bitterness, pornography, with gambling, and all kinds of other life issues that we struggle with, relationship issues. And Celebrate Recovery includes all of those things. And personally, it's been really helpful for me. When I first started, I was shortly after I was struggling in my marriage. And Roland, you remember that time when Kathy and I were struggling, and it was very helpful to me to have that support of being able to share the hurts and things involved with that, and realizing my anger was a big piece of that. And so that was a piece of what the program helped me to identify things in my life that were broken, and so that's a big part of it.
You know, I remember, if you roll the clock back probably close to 15 years ago now, I heard about Celebrate Recovery, and one of the things I was interested in was the fact that it was based on 12 steps. It was based on a step program, and I had run into a thing called 12 Steps of Wholeness. It was written back in the 1800s, and it was a systematic approach to helping Christians grow and be transformed. And I think it was put together by a group called the Oxford Group that was connected with John and Charles Wesley at that time. And we used to incorporate some of those steps in what we called our first step class. Well, Celebrate Recovery so mirrored those 12 steps, which was designed for everyone, not just those with addictions, but well, to use the terminology that I often hear us use, for those with hurts and habits and hang-ups and just faulty thinking at times. So when I saw this material, I shared it with others, and they began to run with it, and that was about 12 years ago now. And one of the reasons that I am totally behind this is because I see the good fruit in people's lives. I see changed lives. I see people that are discovering that they were created to serve in ways they had never dreamed, but they couldn't see that until they got free. When you got involved in Celebrate Recovery, talk to us a little bit about how did you get involved, and what did that look like?
The first times I came to Celebrate Recovery, my primary reason for coming was to learn how to help my two boys that struggled with drug and alcohol issues, because it's a recovery program. I thought that's what it was all about, and certainly it is. But while I was coming to support my boys and to try to learn how to be helpful with them, I realized when we do a PowerPoint presentation during our group night, the bottom line is it's for anything that hinders your walk with God. And boy, I qualified because I got stuff in my life that has hindered my walk with God for many years, and Celebrate Recovery has been a format that I've been able to identify things in my life that are broken, have the love and support of other people, and finding out I'm not alone. I think that's one of the key things with Celebrate Recovery, is we realize that we're not alone in our struggle, and we can share our struggles feeling safe, that we all struggle with things. So, and one thing led to another, and after that.
So you obviously have personally benefited from Celebrate Recovery. Are there any things that you'd like to share about that, or pretty much what you've said? Do you want to add to anything along that line?
I think one of the things that was really significant was on our regular meeting night, which at that time was on Fridays. We did the large group meeting, and then we would break into small share groups. And they're gender specific. I think that's very important, because guys and ladies have different issues, and especially talking about things of a sexual nature or very personal nature, it's difficult to talk about those things in mixed company. And so feeling safe in being able to share, and following the large group meeting, we break into these small share groups, and that was a place where I realized I was very much not alone in my struggle. With, for me, I had issues with pornography and sexual issues, as well as anger and relationship issues and things of that nature.
So, is there anything else you'd like to communicate to the church, to our community, about Celebrate Recovery that we haven't already talked about?
I think the main thing is realizing that Celebrate Recovery can benefit absolutely anybody, regardless of how many years you've been a believer, how long you've walked with the Lord. If you're a brand new person, maybe you're just searching, you're not sure if you even believe in God, that's okay. Whatever stage you're at. I've had people from every side of the spectrum on that. Actually, my brother-in-law, Galen, we did a step study together, which he just recently was saying that he identified things in his life that were broken since he was a child, and how it had affected him throughout his life. And we had hurt each other. I think one of the key things is one of the things with Celebrate Recovery and the step study, we identified people that we have hurt and people that have hurt us, and we had hurt each other. And so through doing the step study and through making amends, our relationship's been healed. And I know Galen's acknowledged this in a lot of different ways, and we're just blessed that we're able to work together and walk in unity together like we weren't able to do before.
That's awesome. You know, I want to move to this whole thing about step studies. You've referred to it, you talk about it, you kind of connected a little bit with the small groups that you have on a regular basis. And what are step studies? If you were just to give me in a one sentence or two sentences, what is a step study?
Well, the step study, basically we do the same lessons we do on a regular large meeting night, only it really breaks it down. The steps to recovery, the steps to freedom from whatever we struggle with. There are questions that are very hard questions to answer. I think it's really important to realize that this is not an easy thing. It'll take 6 months to a year to complete a step study, depending on the size of the group, but it will draw out what the hurt is. It will draw out the areas that we struggle with. Sometimes we don't even realize that hurt is there, but the question will draw that out. And that's what's key about the step study, is it will help you identify those hurts and those things that you struggle with, maybe a bitterness towards a person. And it's about getting peace with God, first of all, a relationship with Jesus, because the first 6 lessons are about coming into a relationship with Christ, and that's key. That is very key to having victory. And then doing inventory, we're identifying those issues and struggles in our life. And then there's making amends and that process of getting that healing that's so important for us.
So it's really a tool to help us expose in our lives, stuff that's really there that we didn't know existed. You have been a part of a step study yourself. Any thing that you've personally benefited from it?
I've done, actually, I think 7 regular step studies, and initially I went into it, not, it was a learning experience. I found out that you get to build relationships. You get to know people on a level that you just don't get to know people in church as a whole, or even in Celebrate Recovery as a whole, because you're sharing your stuff with each other, the hurts, the stuff you struggle with, praying with one another, and there's just a building of relationships. I've gained freedom from things. I guess it's identifying the brokenness in our lives, that whether we hide it or whether we just don't want to look at it. And so it's benefited me personally by identifying things in my life and getting me to work on those things and bring them to the Lord, getting prayer support. And as far as others, like I said, I've done 7 step studies now, and I watch as people go through the steps. I watch people that come in with just a thread of hope, and I watch the light come on, because they get a hold of Christ, they get a hold of how God can set them free. And I've just watched that happen in a number of people that's why I keep doing them, because I learn more about myself each one I do as well.
So a step study is not something you would just do as an individual. The component of being part of a group is very crucial in the value of the step study.
Absolutely.
Okay. That's something that I think we so often, we're so individual minded, or we want to just keep everything private, but there's power in being involved in a group. So would you say that a step study is for everyone or just for specific people?
It can benefit absolutely anyone. It doesn't matter where you are in your walk with God. I believe that even though I've done several of them, I feel like I grow every time I do one. I go down to Northeast Region Corrections, and part of what we do down there is we get into the step study lesson. And I learn more about myself by listening to other people. Even though some of these guys, it's meth, it's all kinds of different things that they've done, but even though I haven't struggled with that, there's a lot of things in their life and their thinking patterns that I connect with, and I say, wow, I never thought about that. But that fits me too. And you'll find that a lot in a step study.
Okay. So I would say if you're not involved, or you've never done a step study, consider doing one. I think it'd be a great tool as well as a life-changing experience for you. Well, thanks for
I got one more thing.
talking about it. Yeah.
Share.
Yeah.
The question was asked at our elders meeting, actually. Can a person that's not in Celebrate Recovery be a part of a step study? And I would say absolutely. Maybe you don't have time to be here on our regular meeting nights, but you can fit into a time when a step study is going on, and there are a number of people that have done that and benefited greatly. So yes, you don't have to come Wednesday night to be a part of a step study. If you're able to get into one and the time works for you, please get into a step study. You'll grow.
Yeah, step studies go all through the week. They may be during the day, they may be evenings. It's just a particular one that would fit your schedule. So step studies are available most anytime.